Hello everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Star Technology. It's been a little while due to real-life things going on, like me quitting smoking, getting my wisdom teeth pulled, and moving, but I'm back now and ready to wrap up this series. Last episode, we ended off working on Mark III fusions, and that's about all I continued to do between episodes beside the standard power upgrades. The rotors for that did take quite a while, but on to other business. I mentioned last time that we would have a Stargate to show off today. We definitely will by the end of the episode, but at this very moment we have a couple tasks to complete before we actually get one crafted. There isn't a whole lot, as you've probably noticed due to how short this video is, but we're going to start off the day by setting up 10 component part assembly machines, which is probably overkill for now, but they will come in handy once we start working on the ancient gate in the future if we do, plus I just had the extra space to fill. The controllers took a while to craft, but these are going to be set up kinda similar to our assembly lines in the way that they have redstone links to hide them from the mainnet. The main point of these machines is to make UHV components post-gate, but we'll still need them for ultra-high voltage coils. Now that these are set up, this floor feels pretty complete and I'm actually super satisfied with how this one turned out. From here, the next thing to do on our list before setting up Stargate preparation multi-blocks was bulk freezers and furnaces. Because of space constraints and generally just not feeling like doing more, we ended up putting down 8 RHFs and 4 freezers. Due to this, there were quite a few recipes that we had to switch over to our RHFs, but the main purpose of having these from here on out will mostly be to smelt weapons grade Nequata for the Stargate. These recipes are pretty long here at the end of the pack, but the speed bonuses on these with the parallels make it a little more bearable. In retrospect, we maybe could have done with more RHF since we ended up waiting on weapons grade Nequata for quite a bit, but at least we got it started before moving on to the rest of gate prep. After this point, until we get the Stargate though, there isn't a whole lot more I can show as far as new setups or chemical lines just because the end of this pack is pretty much just building a few giant multi-blocks, slapping some pattern providers on them, and then waiting. Occasionally you'll run into a bottleneck or you might run short on some important ingredient, but it's nothing troubleshooting and time can't fix. Seems like no matter what, I eventually run out of rare earth dust for lanthanum towards the very end of each run, so you might prioritize that, but I feel like the rest of the base ingredients for this aren't so bad. Since the final multi-blocks for this pack are so large and didn't fit very well in any of our other buildings, Scarlet and I made the decision to just shove them underneath the terraforming she set up. I put quite a bit of effort into making it look clean down here, but I decided to leave the ceilings and walls alone just for the sake of my time, to be honest. I felt like I spent so much time on the floor design alone that I decided it made up for the plain walls and called it good. As for the gate prep multis, there isn't a super particular order we'll need to build them in, but I'm going to start with the heat chamber to start producing pure Nequata dust. You might want to build 2 of these if you don't want to bottleneck your operations, since it does see quite a bit of use here, but I'm just making 1 because I don't really have the space for more of these down here. After we have them producing purified Nequata dust, the next step is to convert pure Nequata into echo shards with this giant vibration laser engraver. You'll need another star lens and looping PCB coolant for this step, but one of these machines should be good enough to last you until the Stargate by all means in this version. You'll also have to use it to make blank coordinate crystals with these, but honestly you shouldn't need a whole lot of those before the end of the pack unless you have pretty terrible luck with dimensional pinging. Moving on with the Stargate process though, we could go off in a couple different directions here, but I'm going to start by working towards the engraved runes by making the Runic circuitry assembling station. You'll need to go through the slightly annoying process of making 2 Drakion wave generators in order to set this up, with one of them being for research and the other to craft the shrub laser beam concentrator, but there are other things you could work on while waiting for those, so they aren't really a big deal. This is also probably a good time to start ordering the 3600 stellarium you'll be needing for the Stargate assembler, but I'll talk about that one more later on. With the Drakion wave generators in hand, the next step is to do the research and order the parts for the big yellow mushroom multi-block, and then move on to the large quantum compressor because we'll be needing singularities as ingredients for runic plating. I'm fairly certain singularities are deprecated in more recent versions of the pack since they were kind of a weird choice to begin with, but in this version of the pack I'm using silver to make singularities since we had a bunch of excess. Lead and nickel are just as good in Zeta, but I would advise not using platinum since it's just not as abundant as the others in most cases. Now that we have everything for Runic plating available, the next part of gate prep to focus on is all the Stargate rod related machines. The first one we'll need for rods is this turtle machine here that just kinda assembles crude gate rods for us, and it's pretty cheap to set up compared to everything else on the list today, so it's quick work. I'm pretty sure they made the recipes for crude rods a bit cheaper in Zeta compared to previous versions by making it use 16 nether star foils, but I could be misremembering what it was before. With the turtle all hooked up to AE2 though, the next step in this process is to make the super pressure heat chamber. I'm gonna be honest, this is my least favorite multi-block in the whole pack by leagues, almost entirely because it's butt ugly, and I really think they need to change this thing's structure. Questionable choices aside, it's also pretty much exclusively for cooking gate rods, and I find that kind of annoying too. On the bright side, you'll probably only need one of these for the rest of the pack in this version, but I hope they give this thing more recipes and a redesign eventually. After you get this giant red egg in a case set up and order a gate rod through it, you can pop it in a research station to get the research you need for what is probably the most daunting pre-gate multi-block, the Stargate component assembly. This thing is basically just a mass of tritanium coils and stellarium with some other thermal series casings here and there, but really it's the last step in getting your gate block, so the cost kinda makes sense. You'll probably have to overnight craft all the stellarium required for this because it's a pretty large amount, but if you've gotten this far, there's definitely no turning back now. The crafts for this will take quite a bit of AFK time, but that's why I prefer to leave the Dimensional Finder multi-block for last since it kills a bit of time for us. This machine is my favorite looking multi-block for gate prep by far, and I think that conceptually it's a really cool machine, but like I said earlier, the chance recipes on this feel kind of annoying. The coordinates for Abydos never change, so you don't really need it for the coordinates themselves, but it does run a command that will allow you to enter Abydos, so technically it's mandatory to set one of these up. This is another machine that you should only reasonably need one of for the pack, but you'll probably have to move it into Abydos for the ancient gate coordinates if you plan on doing that later. Once you get the coordinate crystal from it though, all you'll have to do to get your coordinates for Abydos is toss your coordinate crystal into the Stargate. Avoiding any AFK time is practically impossible, but on our infra it didn't really seem to take very long for us this time around. As I mentioned previously, the bottleneck for us was weapons grade Naquata due to a lack of RHFs, but it wasn't bad enough to decide to build more, so we just thugged that problem out. Our journey to Classic Gate is done now though, so it's time to roll the clip. So yeah, we have full access to Abydos and its resources now, and we could totally start encroaching on those, but if I'm being honest, that will have to be for another time for me. I'm still undecided on whether I want to get the Ancient Gate on this world, since it honestly has never felt that rewarding for me, but I'm definitely not done with star technology as a whole, regardless of whether I get an Ancient Gate on this series or not. In the Zeta version particularly, it's a whole lot more rounded out than it was back in Epsilon when all the post-gate stuff was new, but overall it kinda just seemed like 3 chemical lines in a weight fest, so I wouldn't describe it as particularly exciting in its current state. My best advice if you're going for it is to be prepared for some pretty long crafts, but that's pretty much all I have to say about it for right now. There's a spot reserved for the Ancient Gate across from the Classic Gate here, just in case I do decide to go that far, but for now it's just a maybe. Either way, I would like to give a big thanks to Scarlet for contributing so much to this run and making my thumbnails, and then I would also like to thank everyone who has watched the run up to this point. It really means a lot to me that you checked out the series. I'll probably take a break from Star Technology to mess with some other GregTech related mods, so you can look forward to that, but comment any questions about today's video or even any mod pack suggestions down below, and I'll be sure to look at them. If you haven't subscribed already and would like to, the button for it is in its usual spot, but with that, I'm going to sign off. Hope to see you on the next run. Ciao!